All right, welcome everyone. Let's bring the audio down. Or actually, let's change the music here. So, let's see. All right, here we go. All right, a little better. Alright guys, welcome. As you guys see in the title, we are going to talk about AMD Part 2, since the very first stream did very well. And well as in the video did well, the live stream overall did well. I think I got the most amount of people in there in one time. I think we nearly got 100 people in that stream. But the second part is that, well, the technical analysis that was displayed in the video worked out perfectly. So we're going to discuss that and what are the next steps for AMD as it continues to go in the way that we've analyzed. Okay, so first of all, the technical analysis that we did last Thursday, so last week, was that we're looking at a continued downtrend for AMD. Okay. Now, oh wait, before I continue, is anyone hearing any type of interruptions to my audio? Just let me know now before we move on further. Are we good? Okay, I'm seeing reactions in the chat, so I don't know if you're actually good or not. If anyone can give me an actual reply in the chat room, that'd be great. Anyone? Oh, hey, okay, we're good. Awesome. Okay, so with AMD, right? So what we were looking at last Thursday was this potential for a bear flag to completely form and then eventually confirm it by breaking to the downside. And that's exactly what we did since yesterday, since this week overall began. And so if you go on the weekly time frame, which we were on for most of the time in last Thursday's stream, I pointed out that my short-term weekly 10 and weekly 21 SMAs continued to curl down, right? And so whenever we have these declining short-term SMAs on, or even EMAs, if you guys use EMAs, or maybe you guys don't use any moving averages at all, but if you guys do, whether it be SMAs or EMAs, whenever we see declining or curling lower, curling down, or angling down SMAs or EMAs, it usually indicates that the trend overall short-term should be to the downside, and it's not recommended that you try to fight that trend, right? So that's basically what occurred here, right? I've basically told you guys last Thursday that it would be wise to not try to go long around here, because we're still making, just from a price action wise, lower lows and lower highs. So this week, with this move lower and this official breakout from this bear flag, and if you guys don't see the bear flag, let me just give you guys a quick drawing here. Okay, so we had the flagpole that comes from the pivot high point here from the broader descending resistance trend line, and then obviously for the last 1, 2, 3, and I would say 3.5 weeks ago, yes, we've made this nice flag here, right? This is a textbook bear flag, and I basically cautioned for you guys or any long-term buyers of AMD to be cautious of this short-term trend, right? So my overall conclusion for last Thursday's stream was that AMD, be aware of the short-term trend. We should be moving lower, but from a mid to long term, we should be going back up, right? And the real question now is, when will AMD try to reverse back up, right? Well, when is the time we're going to be seeing a nice reversal back up higher? Well, as we've gotten this new confirmation that, well, with this new data, the fact that the price has broken down, it officially confirmed what we've analyzed last week on Thursday, that we should be breaking out this bear flag and we should see declining share price and declining SMAs on the weekly, monthly, and even the daily time frames. So all the higher time frames. We've suggested that, well, I suggested that we should be seeing some sort of a pivot point around this 120 to 122 area. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome in. We just began, but I've kind of just reviewed what we went over last week. So on last Thursday's live stream on AMD. So make sure you guys go ahead and take a look at that. And if you guys haven't seen that live stream from last Thursday, I have linked it down below in the description box. So again, just as a quick reminder for anyone who's just joining us, or if you guys are coming in, are watching this replay now, make sure to read the description box down below. I have a lot of crucial information that you guys should read because there's a lot of good links out there that I put in the description box that are relevant to the stream, or at least relevant for the trading week on that day. Okay, so again, link down below. We have the live stream replay from last week, and also this week's private but now public CFO Swing and Watch Report technical analysis video. Okay, so with that being said, let's go back to this pivot point around 120 to 121 or 122. So I want to keep a nice 2-point range there. Why? Well, first of all, we have this whole number level of 120, okay, which will most likely hit as we continue to move lower. And at the same time, we have this 122 level that we previously pivoted away from back in, I believe this is early August? Yeah, so the very first week of August, which created this August lows, was right at 121.83. So this weekly candlestick's lows is at 121.83. And it even aligns this 122 whole number level, if we just round up, aligns with the previous resistance level that we've seen here for all of 2023. Okay, and if you even go further back if you want to, we've used this level multiple times in 2022 and in 2021 as a level of resistance. So basically, it seems like we're trying to come back down to retest this major level of resistance for a second time, a secondary pivot point here. Why is it a secondary pivot point? Because we already retested it in August, right? Now, it's not a good sign if we that we're coming back down to retest this 122 previous resistance level because again, we have already pivoted away and used it as a new level of support. So this just simply states that the buyers were not strong enough to contain the price above this level, and we continue to inch closer and closer back down to this level, meaning that sellers are pretty much strong, and any space above 122 is still full of sellers as the price continues to move lower. Okay, now I'm gonna move away from this 120 to 122 area for just a second, okay? Because there is a chance that we can consolidate even more and move sideways in a new range that we're stuck in right now, and that is the 128 to 135 range. This is a previous demand area that expect some sort of a bounce to occur. So at least, maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe you might move sideways to allow my daily 10 SMA, the weekly 10 SMA to finally catch up to the price. Because again, I kind of expected AMD to, well, not really expected, I was hoping ideally for another week of consolidation within this bear flag on the weekly time frame, so that we can see the weekly 10 SMA, this red line, catching up to the price and at least retesting with the price here. But we didn't get that, right? Obviously not, after yesterday's breakout to the downside and today's continuation. So it would be great to see the price holding around this 127 to 128 area and potentially moving sideways between this very large demand area from 135 to 128-ish. But again, this is a good breakout, right? And the volume is already big. We're just 2 days into the trading week, so there's a good chance that we can continue to see a move lower until we hit 122 or even 120. But just just focus on the fact that there's still a very good possibility that for the rest of the week we just continue to kind of mingle around this 127 to 120 area, kind of testing the waters here before it decides to continue to go lower, and that would be great again. Why? Because of the fact that the weekly 10 SMA does have to catch up at some point, because it's going to be a bit too overextended from the price. So today, if you just look at it from a percentage standpoint, the weekly 10 SMA closed at 144.67, and if you go all the way down, if you retrace it down to today's closing price, we are nearly 12% difference from the closing price of the weekly 10 SMA to the actual closing price of today. All right. So, obviously this is not going to be the set weekly candlestick. We're still on Tuesday. We have 3 more trading days, 3 more days worth of price action. So I wouldn't be too surprised if you either move lower or if you just kind of move tightly around this 127 to 128 weekly support level. Okay, so that's kind of the price action that I have in mind for the rest of the week. But definitely for sure, short to mid term, in the next couple of weeks, I expect a full retest of this previous pivot point or the August lows at 122 and potentially another lower low as we hit 120. Right, that'll be a lower low compared to this previous pivot lower pivot point, right? And the reason why I say that is that, well, as I've also identified for you guys last Thursday's stream, this weekly 200 SMA continues to curl up higher, right? Oh, let me just let's see a reload here. TradingView likes to reload. So we have this weekly 200 SMA slowly rising up higher, and at some point we will see a retest of the weekly 200 SMA. That is something that you will have to expect to see. And so now the question comes of, well, not just comes, the main question here that you have to ask yourself is whether or not the price will be able to pivot at 122 around, or at least make a new pivot low point and then pivot away at 120. This whole allow the weekly 200 SMA to eventually catch up as the price pivots back up higher without moving lower and lower until the price becomes the actual retest of the 200 SMA rather than the 200 SMA catching up first to the price, right? So again, it's a question of whether or not the price will come back down first to retest the weekly 200 SMA, or if the price stays around this 122 to 120 small demand area, this 2-point demand area, and allow the weekly 200 SMA to slowly catch up until it actually retests with it. It's just those two scenarios, right? The market is always a dichotomy, right? We always have two different scenarios that you need to be looking out for, especially when you're looking at technicals. So again, AMD from a fundamental standpoint, there's a lot of growth to be had, right? They are okay, they are going to be okay regarding the overall semiconductor space with the AI chips, right? The AI accelerator chips, to be specific. They have their own chips, just like NVIDIA with their Blackwell chips, and they're literally going to be the second best semiconductor company, which I believe they are now. And with Intel CEO leaving too, it seems like it's that type of a catalyst from another major competitor. Well, I wouldn't even say major anymore. With Intel CEO leaving, that I think that really solidifies AMD's race in this AI revolution for these AI accelerator chips. And it'll be a good idea for you guys to Google what specific AI accelerator chips that AMD is making, and compare to NVIDIA's specific AI accelerator chips that they have now and what they are developing in the future, in the very short to mid-term future for, the Blackwell project, or quote-unquote project, right? So for AMD, the competition grows, but they're still second in line. That's what everyone has accepted, and that's kind of the retail traders' perspective, and even from an institutional perspective as well. It's just that from a technical standpoint, AMD just has a lot more room to move back to the downside. So again, I know there's a lot of people who were not really ecstatic to hear my analysis last Thursday, which is the reason why we had some dislikes in the stream. But what can I do, right? I'm just trying to be honest with the technicals here, and so I'm being honest with you guys again tonight. That with the overall markets feeling like it wants to move lower and pull back more, AMD can continue to move lower as well. And before I finish off with AMD and move on to kind of the overall markets and trying to answer whether or not we're seeing either a sector rotation or just a simple exhaustion pullback, AMD watch out and make levels or make your levels on your charts, or at least make alerts around 122 and 120, not just 122 but 120 as well, because that could be a potential pivot point or pivot area for you to grab some long-term option contracts or even equity. Okay, and again, welcome everyone who's just joining in. You guys are now slightly late. I just went over the summary of what occurred for AMD and kind of how that's translated over from last Thursday's stream, which you guys should watch. If you guys have not watched it yet, the link is down below in the description box, so make sure you guys watch it. And also, I've given you guys my short-term thesis as what could occur the rest of this week and what can occur in the near-term future, right? So now for the longer term, okay, a lot of people are thinking that AMD is going to go back down to that triple-digit whole number level, that psychological level of $100. I don't think that's gonna happen, especially when everyone is thinking that, because everyone's so bearish on AMD right now. So from a longer term perspective, I don't think that's really gonna happen. I think AMD has provided enough value, fundamental value, that it shouldn't be valued at anything lower than $100 per share. That's just my own personal opinion. I know there's a lot of fundamental analysis out there, or even just people who do fundamental analysis only, that will really disagree with me there. But again, just from a technical and fundamental standpoint, I like to combine them together. I don't think AMD will breach 100. If it does, hey, I'm wrong, right? But if it does, then that just means that at that point, I will be expecting the markets to be also pulling back strongly as well if AMD is moving down below 100. Okay, if AMD breaches 100, I'm gonna blame it on the markets as well. Okay, not just because AMD is sucking as a company, as a semiconductor company, which is again only second to NVIDIA. Okay, does everyone understand that? Okay. Okay, there we go. I see you guys' reactions there. Thank you. Okay, so with all that being said, let's take a look at the overall semiconductor sector, because they really sucked butt today. Right? So as I've stated earlier, or not earlier, but last week, we're kind of starting to just consolidate and move sideways, right? But with this move lower, I'm kind of seeing a nice little hump, right? We're kind of seeing an H pattern forming as well. So, it's something that you should be looking out for. Let me actually draw it here for you guys to see. So, this is what we like to call a nice H pattern, right? So, for sure, on a weekly perspective here on SMH, this is the, again, semiconductor ETF from VanEck. The weekly 50 SMA here has been climbing up back higher to reach, to come back to the price here for an eventual second retest. Again, we're gonna see a second retest. So that means, okay, what does that mean? Well, that means the price is gonna go lower, unfortunately, for overall semiconductors, right? So right now, as I've stated last week, okay, so let me give you guys the entire statement of what I said in that stream, and also the pinned comment, okay, the pinned comment from that stream. Okay, because I think it's worth to repeat that. So listen closely, guys, okay? So I specifically said this. I said, I believe that the AI growth story on the overall semiconductor group / industry is dissipating or pivoting towards the software group / industry. We're seeing that now with software earnings absolutely killing it, as they are now the main beneficiaries of this AI revolution powered by the semiconductors. All right, so if that is true, then semis will most likely be looked at as a more valuable group. It's more of a value group compared to a growth group, right? And this could dampen any large moves in the overall group in the mid to long term future. Remember this. Okay, so that's exactly what I said in the pinned comment in last week's Thursday stream. So again, watch it down below if you guys have not watched it yet. Okay, and I still believe in that statement because, if you just compare to IGV, for example. Okay, so I was looking at NVD earlier because I'm looking for a nice dip buy, but that's for a different video. But IGV, completely different, right? I mean, look at this monthly candlestick, all right? It just seems like it just wants to consolidate now at these highs. If I just go to the weekly time frame as well for IGV, this is the tech software ETF. If you guys didn't know, it just seems like it just wants to allow the daily and the weekly SMAs, the short-term SMAs specifically, to catch up, right? So on the weekly 10 SMA is catching up, and on the daily, I believe the daily 21 SMA. Oh yeah, so today it has finally basically caught up to the price. So tomorrow I'm expecting a full retest of the daily 21 SMA. Okay, so once that occurs for IGV, the weekly 10 SMA should be retesting with the 10 SMA as well on its own time frame, right? But anyways, what I'm trying to purvey to you guys here is that IGV is very strong, right? It's just having a nice exhaustion pullback. That's it, all right? But SMH is doing the complete opposite. So for me, the question now is, are we still seeing an internal rotation compared to an active overall sector rotation out of tech and into the more beaten up defensive sectors, right? Because again, all of last week, including, well, I would say all of the last 2 weeks, the two previous weeks, we've seen a lot of defensive sectors like utilities, energy, real estate, or not really real estate, but I think real estate last week. But anyways, all the defensive sectors, right? I've gone over them on my previous videos as well. They've become kind of weak, right? So they're relatively weak. So if we are definitely seeing a sector rotation out of overall tech, so that means it encompasses software and semiconductors, so IGV and SMH. If we're seeing an overall money outflow from these leading groups, the overall tech sector, and if you're seeing that outflow going back into the defensive sectors, then that is an official sector rotation. And so that is the reason why, I gave you guys like XL, I gave you guys analysis on XLU, right? It's gonna come here, XLE, right? So all of these are very, very good names here to be looking into possibly by the rest of this week, because they're all at their own pivotal spots to have a bounce, right? So XLE, okay, look at that. Just take a look at my SMAs. Let's see what else. XLRE, okay, yep, XLRE here. So basically, hopefully you guys are getting my point here. We're seeing a very, very good potential sector rotation if we continue to see both IGV and both SMH, right? Both SMH and IGV to continue to go lower, which could indicate that we're not seeing an internal rotation, where we're seeing more weakness coming out of semiconductors and potentially seeing that weakness going back into IGV as a new form of strength, where IGV continues to hold up here. But basically, if you don't see that happening, right? If you don't see that situation where IGV finds some sort of a footing around the weekly 10 SMA or even on the daily 21 SMA, then all of the overall tech group will continue to move down, and NASDAQ will continue to lead the way down while the defensive sectors gain a strong foothold at their own respective support levels and demand areas. And we can see an official overall sector rotation as we head into the end of this year, right? Now, as a small bonus here, if these leaders continue to move down, that means that we're going to be seeing the laggards like small caps. So the overall market caps or asset classes, small caps and mid caps, start to gain favor as well to the upside. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's not just defensive sectors. When we're having a sector rotation, we're going to be seeing the overall asset classes, the market caps, small cap and mid caps beginning to move back up higher. All right, so that is my overall market outlook as we head into the end of this month. And so for anyone who's just joining in, and if you guys want more details, a little bit more analysis compared to this, and actual actionable, applicable trading ideas based on this analysis, make sure you guys join us tonight by DMing me on Instagram at ChartsFocus1. Okay, you guys will get the chance to have a 50% off discount code for your first 30 days. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Yes. All right. So I truly think AMD is still cooked. Right. So that's kind of a quick summary here. With the overall sector being very weak, I don't want A, take some away, but take some away does look good. Wow. You know, AMD continues to make this descending channel. I believe it's going to continue to adhere to this channel, no doubt about it. We're still very much stuck within the parameters set up by these macro descending trend lines, the descending resistance trend line, the descending support trend line, and it seems like it'll be hard to try to get out of this descending trend line for the near-term future. So I will not try to buy the trend right now unless you guys are willing to be holding through the drawdowns as you try to dollar cost average eventually for an eventual reversal back to the upside for the long-term future. Okay, so now hey guys, what's up? So you guys are just missing out on everything that I just talked about. But make sure you guys hit that like button if you guys are enjoying this stream. But yeah, so you know, I don't know when the bottom is going to be for AMD. Again, it's very hard, which, well, I strongly advise everyone to try to predict the top or bottom. It's very hard to do that, even with technical analysis, even for fundamental analysis. So I'm just going to be looking out for potential signs by looking at these pivot points that I've just talked about for AMD, like 120 to 122, or even an official retest of the weekly 200 SMA as an actual long-term bottom for a nice long-term entry point, right? So again, it sounds bearish for the short-term future because it is, but for the long-term future, I'm going to be very bullish and optimistic that AMD can go back to like 185 or 187 or even near 200, right, for the longer-term future. So AMD has a lot of time to work out its downtrend here, and you know, if we continue to consolidate like this in a descending manner for the rest of this year, I think AMD has a good chance to be a very good leader in the overall semiconductor group heading into the fiscal year of 2025, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if semiconductors start to lead again. Well, individual tickers like AMD, which has been lagging all year and basically diverging away from NVIDIA's path of straight up, right? Of a straight uptrend, because again, AMD looks completely different to AMD, right? I mean, if I just take a look at the percentages here, let's compare it here. Let's look at NVIDIA. Okay, look at that. Completely different. Right, AMD and NVIDIA diverged since the peak in March, right? From AMD to NVIDIA. NVIDIA straight up, AMD straight down, right? Very clear picture and very good comparison there. Okay, so you know, be optimistic, but be aware and be cautious of what I've just told you guys here. Heed my words carefully here for AMD. Again, AMD might just be a great short swing trade to the downside for the next couple of weeks as semiconductors continue to see money outflow, and as we continue to see, well, yeah, so semiconductors are still seeing money outflow, but I have yet to see if IGV is still in the same position. Well, not still, if software IGV specifically is seeing a similar situation where we're seeing an overall money outflow. Because again, I don't see that yet. We're just seeing an overall exhaustion profit taking move back to the downside since yesterday after hitting a new all-time high for the overall tech software sector. So if we start to see a new downtrend in IGV, then I'll be fully confident that the overall tech sector is seeing an overall correction, and that could set us up as we head into the OPEX for this month of December, which is going to be December 20th. And I've written a lot about that in this week's CFO Swing Watch report. Okay, again, I've oh, do you lose connection? Oh, there we go. Joey says, so laggard that we can take advantage of in the mid to long term. Yes, that is very, very true, right? So Joe, one of my students here, has explained it very, very well in a very nice summarized manner, that AMD is a major laggard as a secondary name only to NVIDIA in the semiconductor space. That is a huge laggard, and we can take advantage of it in the mid to long term. So again, if you guys want to just avoid it for now and just not look at it for the longer term, mid to longer term, before it decides to turn around, just do that, ignore it. There's a lot of other tickers that are doing really well and should continue to lead up higher as we head into the end of the month and into the end of this year. Does that make sense? Okay, so conclusion. AMD is still definitely cooked, and it's getting more cooked. Okay, so I was absolutely correct in identifying that AMD is going to be cooked last Thursday, but again, I'm still very, very much confident in the longer term, and that AMD can potentially go back to 185, 187, or maybe even retest 200 in the long-term future, maybe in 2027, 2026, who knows, right? As long as we can see that reversal or that turnaround occurring in around, I would say mid 2025. Now, this is just 100% absolutely speculation of the time frame of when I think AMD can turn around, okay? So don't take my word for it here. I'm just spitting out speculative comments now at this point about the turnaround for AMD, but again, not seeing a turnaround anytime soon. Okay, the overall sector is weak, and the overall leaders like AMD, which in itself is a leader, has been lagging for the most part of this year and is now seeing other leaders going down with it, like NVIDIA today. Okay? All right. Well, that is it for me, guys. Again, just focus on whether or not, again, continue to question every single day of this week whether or not we're just seeing an internal rotation where we're seeing IGB in a singular manner, singular perspectives, just seeing an exhaustive pullback, just some small profit taking, while semiconductors continue to see money outflow, right? Because again, we've seen this software semiconductor internal rotation for the past couple of weeks. Okay, and this just might be a continuation of that once we do see a pivot point around softwares, the overall software group and overall software names, while the semiconductors continue to see money outflow. And that means that we can continue to see the overall markets moving up higher as the overall defensive groups and laggards find a pivot. Why? Because they're all at their respective major estimated areas of support or major levels of support or major areas of demand, depending on what you're looking at, right? XLU, XLE, XLRE, XLB. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have to go through all of that today. So, you know, just be careful out there. I would highly recommend you guys to continue to keep a good eye out for the overall market action. Take a look at every single sector as the day goes by, and focus on the leading groups to see if we are going to be seeing that switch from an internal rotation between semis and software all the way into, okay, if you're going to see that switch from an internal to an overall sector rotation. All right, hopefully that makes sense. All right, well, that is it for me tonight, guys. Make sure you guys DM me on Instagram to join us tonight to become a reader of the many other readers of the CFO Swing Watch report. And once you become a reader, you're simultaneously given the status of a private member of the private CFO Discord community. Okay, so make sure you guys DM me on Instagram at chartsfocus1. If you guys don't know how to spell that, well, it's the channel name here, right? The spelling is right there on the YouTube channel here. So make sure you guys DM me by just searching me up on Instagram at chartsfocus1. Okay, I'll see you guys on Thursday at the same time, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your night and good luck tomorrow.